Developing story, President Donald Trump says he's told the Pentagon to begin planning to send the military to Nigeria if the government is, quote, allowing the killing of Christians. The comment came after Senator Ted Cruz urged Congress to designate Nigeria as a violator of religious freedom with claims of, quote, Christian mass murder. On social media Saturday, the president threatened to stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria, and the United States, quote, may very well go into the country guns a-blazing, and instructed the Department of War to prepare for possible action. Joining us now with more is Lieutenant Colonel Hal Kempfer, retired Marine intelligence officer and host of the Strat podcast. Great to see you. Thanks for being here on this important day.
Thank you, Anna.
And look, I remember covering the Boko Haram terrorist kidnapping of schoolgirls during the Obama administration. This unrest has been happening for quite some time, but Trump's just drawing more and more attention to it. Are we about to see action from the United States in the region?
Anna, it's possible. I'm kind of trying to figure out exactly. It was a little vague as to what guns a-blazing means in terms of that. But there has been an active campaign. You remember back 2014, Boko Haram kidnapped all those schoolgirls. I got global press attention, certainly. But then there's another group out there which is kind of contending with Boko Haram. Some say it actually is transition. That's an ISIS-affiliated group. It's called ISWAP, which is Islamic State of a Western African province. And then Ansura is an al-Qaeda group that's up there. All of these groups are very much involved. There's a multinational joint task force. U.S. is not involved with that, of West African countries surrounding Nigeria, going after these groups. Maybe we'll tie in with that. But then again, there was heavy criticism by President Trump of Bola Tinubu, the president of Nigeria. So I'm not quite sure what the plan is.
Okay. Yeah, people getting killed for their faith. What would that military action look like if this were to happen? Would you anticipate support from Nigerian officials? Would this be collaborative?
I think the best way to do it would be collaborative, to work with them, maybe work with the multinational joint task force. That would be an easy thing to segue into. What we could provide is intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance capabilities they don't have, particularly airborne drones, satellites, other things like that. Certainly airstrike capabilities, that's something that they don't have a lot of that we could do. So we could actually provide an arm of what they need to complement what they would call boots on the ground. Not to say we probably would have to have some boots, at least at an airfield or something, in order to do this, but I don't see us deploying ground forces in Nigeria.
Got it. If we can, let's turn now to President Trump's cartel crackdown. 3 killed in a U.S. strike on an alleged cartel targets there in the Caribbean. And Secretary of War Pete Hegseth is saying that American forces successfully took out what they call a narco-trafficking vessel, saying the Pentagon will treat cartels exactly like al-Qaeda. How far does the Pentagon's authority extend in targeting cartels, Hal?
Well, right now, we seem to be hitting basically these vessels that are in international waters, not in territorial waters, not in Venezuelan territorial waters or anybody else's. So we're hitting them, and they are essentially stateless vessels. They're not flying a flag. They're out there, small vessels on their own. Obviously, if they're a semi-submersible, that is a felony. That's actually illegal just to crew a semi-submersible. So they're clearly narco-trafficking, and the other ones definitely fit what looks like narco-trafficking. So in that regard, we're keeping it in international waters right now. There is some question as to legality, but we are hitting them, and it looks like we're going to continue to do so.
Yeah, and maybe they'll think about maybe not taking the boat out. Maybe it's not a good day to take the boat out. I mean, these aren't boats that have fishing poles on them or something, but you do have Congress, and you've got folks saying, where's the evidence? They want a bit more transparency with that. Do you think the administration needs to offer up more evidence?
That's becoming more. Yesterday they did a brief. They didn't announce it in advance. Only GOP members got the brief on the Hill. And, of course, the Democrats were a little ticked off about that they didn't get this brief about what's going on. But there are a lot of questions. What are the legal standards by which we're doing this? And then the other thing that's in the background is, does this trigger the War Powers Act? We're hitting these narco-terrorists or these narcotics cartels in warfighting means. Has that 60-day clock kicked off? Because that's coming up pretty quick. That thing started in, mid-September? So we're coming up to mid-November. So the question is, does the War Powers Act apply? The administration has said no, it does not apply. Congress, I'm not sure everybody is really in sync with that thinking.
Okay, and you're talking about where this is happening on these international waters, not in Venezuelan waters or something. But NewsNation's Kelly Meyer asked President Trump on Air Force One about possible strikes on Venezuelan soil. Listen.
Mr. President, there are reports that you are considering strikes within Venezuela. Is that true?
No.
That you made a decision on that?
No, it's not true.
So how important do you think this distinction is between strikes on water and possible strikes inland?
Well, once we strike in territorial waters of Venezuela or strike on the territory of Venezuela, that technically is an act of war. There is no ambiguity on that. That is a military strike on a foreign country, a foreign sovereign state, and that would be seen as an act of war. Venezuela is not going to invade the U.S. or launch bombers towards the U.S. or anything like that. They don't have those capabilities, but that would be a distinct change. Now, there would be no ambiguity at all. If we did military action there, that 60-day clock in the War Powers Act would start ticking, so to speak. And I don't think Congress, from a bipartisan standpoint, I don't think Congress would disagree that would be something where the president has to come back to Congress and ask for permission to keep doing so.
And of course, the concern too is that Maduro may turn to Putin, to Russia for support. Hal Kempfer, thank you so much for joining us. We're out of time. Appreciate you being here.
All right. Thank you, Anna.
Enjoy your Sunday.